Good morning. This lesson is for my Trig-Precalc class, but before I get started, I want to say I hope that everyone's doing all right out there. I'm not sure how I'm going to title this lesson, but I'm going to tell it how I title it in the title. But what I am sure of is my one goal for the day. And our first and only goal is to compare completing the square to the quadratic formula when a equals 1. And a is a value in front of the x squared. Alright. So let's just quickly review the quadratic formula. And well, actually what it is, it's a way to solve quadratics. And the value of x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times the value of a, which is 1, times c divided by 2 times the value of a, which is 1. So we could technically call this just 2 and then 4ac. Alright, so let's go ahead and solve the first one by completing the square. Then we'll solve the second one by the quadratic formula. And I hope through this lesson to convince you that completing the square is a simpler way to solve, and the reason why is because we're going to be asked to approximate the solution. We're not using calculators in my class, so we're going to have to do the work by hand. Alright, so here's my first one, x squared plus 8x minus 5. Remember, I need half of this number squared, so I need 16 little squares. Alright, and I have a minus 5, so I'm going to write in a little kind of a creative way to get my value that I need. I need to get rid of a 5, so I'm going to add a 5. If I add a 5 on that side, I need to add a 5 on this side. And then I also need to end up with a 16, so I'm going to add in a 16 as well. So again, I'm writing my numbers and I'm adding to both sides in a little bit of a creative way that allows me to get the result I need without having to think too much. Alright, so I'm going to move this marker over here, it's not working too well. That minus 5 cancels out with that plus 5, and now I'm left with x squared plus 8x plus 16. And I'm not drawing the picture. I hope we're at a point now we don't need to draw the picture. I'm going to get plus 5 plus 16. That's going to get me to plus 21. My square is going to have side lengths of x plus 4, x plus 4. So this factors, or the side lengths, are x plus 4 and x plus 4. Which becomes x plus 4 quantity squared, and that's equal to 21. I now need to square root both sides, so I will do that here, square root, and I get x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 21. Well, the square root of 21 falls between, well, let's say it like this. 16 is smaller than 21, and that's smaller than 25. These values are picked because they are perfect squares. If I was to square root these guys, we would see that this would become 4, this would become 5, and the square root of 21 falls between the value of 4 and 5, so I'm going to say it's roughly equal to 4.5. So that means that x plus 4 is roughly equal to plus or minus 4.5. Let's subtract the 4 to both sides. Alright, and that means that my value of x is going to be minus 4 plus 4.5, so not equals, roughly, is approximately 0.5, and minus 4 minus 4.5 is going to be minus 8.5. So there's my solution by completing the square, approximating the solution. Alright, not too many steps. Again, we need half of that value. That tells us what we need. We figure out what we have to add or subtract away, and then put in what we need on both sides, and we've completed the square. The same problem by the quadratic formula. So my a value is 1, my b value is 8, my c value is negative 5. So x is equal to negative b, which is minus 8, plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 1, that's my a, and my c is negative 5, all right? And then we're going to divide that by 2 times 1. Alright, so now I'm left with negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 squared, which is going to be 64, minus 4 times 1 is minus 4 times 5 is, what is that? That is, positive 20. Positive 20 divided by 2. These does not look like this. They don't look the same, but believe me, they are actually the same. Alright, how am I doing? I'm doing okay. Alright, so now we're going to get to minus 8 plus or minus the square root of 84. Divide that by 2. All right. So let's see here. Well, the square root of 84, or 84, falls between 81 and 100. Okay. And if I square root everybody, that means that 9 is smaller than the square root of 84. And that's smaller than the square root of, that's smaller than 10. So the square root of 84 is probably closer to 9 than it is to 10. So we'll say it's roughly 9.2. All right, so now we're going to say it's minus 8 is approximately minus 8 plus or minus 9.2 divided by 2. All right, so minus 8 plus 9.2, that would become 1.62. Divide that by 2. And that's, maybe my approximation was off here a little bit, but that's okay. It might have been closer, or maybe that approximation was off. So this will be roughly equal to 0.8. That's one of the approximations. Again, I am approximating. So if I approximated not as nearly close on this side compared to that side, that's okay. These are approximations. There's no such thing as an exact approximation. Again, 1.6 is from negative 8 and positive 9.2. Now, negative 8 and negative 9.2, that gets us to negative 17.2. Divide that by 2, that's roughly 8.6. Negative 8.6. So here's a comparison of the two ways that we can solve a quadratic. I personally like solving by completing the square. For me, this is a much simpler problem because we don't have to deal with a fraction. All right. I'm maybe a little bit biased. This is just an easier one, and it comes out already simplified. So hopefully this example of comparing completing the square to solving by completing the square, or not solve by completing, solve by the quadratic formula, you get an idea of maybe the benefits of one method versus another method. Now this method's good. Now this value came out pretty good, so maybe that could have been a 4.6. That might have been a little bit better, but again, these are approximations. These were pretty close. These are off by what, 30 cents. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and end this lesson here. And again, this was just a side-by-side comparison. There's not gonna be any homework, but this is a lesson for those of you that weren't here this day. So again, I hope everyone is doing all right out there. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.